But they wanted to rip out my spiritual core for their precious fake daughter. She's just some hick from the mortal world. Arya is our true little sister, so that ultimate spiritual core should be hers. My mother pulled me aside, weeping. Leah, give your spiritual core to your sister. We'll find a miracle elixir to heal you. I smiled and nodded. All right. The next second, sword energy filled the air. With my bare hands, I tore out the bloody spiritual cores of my father, my mother, my senior brothers, everyone. I tossed them casually in front of the ghastly pale fake daughter. Pick one, I said. Let's see which of your beloved family members is willing to become a true cripple for you. I stood before the gates of the celestial sect, a long sword on my back. Before I could even set foot on the stairs, a cultivator in a white robe blocked my path with his sword. His power was that of a mid-level adept, which made him a decent talent in this region. He looked me up and down with arrogant eyes. You're Leah? The master's long-lost daughter. His spiritual sense swept over me, and he immediately sneered. Humph, a powerless mortal dares to come here and claim kinship. Do you have any idea that the letter you sent the other day made our dear Arya cry all night? She hasn't touched a bite of food or a drop of water since. Oh, he must have been talking about the letter I sent 2 days ago. In it, I had revealed my identity, that I was the sect master's true heir, and Arya, the girl they had doted on for 18 years, was just an orphan left behind by their enemies. I don't. I kept my eyes forward and tried to walk past him. Stop. His sword trembled, aimed straight at my heart. Arya is too kind-hearted to hold this against you, but I will not allow you to take what belongs to her. Leave now and I'll spare your life. I glanced at him, my eyes filled with an icy stillness. Get lost. He didn't move an inch. Instead, he grew even angrier. You ungrateful brat. A mortal nobody. Arya is 1,000 times better than you. If you don't leave, I'll end you right here. Before he could finish his sentence, a cold light flashed. Blood splattered. He looked down in shock at the massive, bloody hole in his chest, then stared at me in disbelief. Even in death, he couldn't comprehend how a mortal's sword could be faster than his senses could even register. You. I looked down, watching him collapse, his face twisted in agony as he twitched on the ground. A drop of blood rolled off the tip of my sword. I said quietly, It's been a long time since anyone dared to show me killing intent. Years ago, my family's enemies threw me from a 10,000-foot cliff. My bones were shattered, my meridians destroyed. My master saved me from the brink of death and guided me onto the path of retribution. This path isn't about senseless slaughter, it's about using death to stop evil. If someone directs killing intent toward me, my power grows immensely after I kill them. The stronger their intent, the greater my power surge. Countless people have fallen to my sword over the years. Now, I'm one step from godhood, capable of annihilating this entire sect with a single thought. My master said I was just one final half step away, to repay the gift of life and sever my mortal ties. Only then could I perfect the path of retribution and ascend. That's why I came here. To find my birth parents and repay them for giving me life. I looked up at the celestial sect, an order admired by thousands of cultivators. Of course, if they were like that idiot just now, and their hearts filled with the intent to kill me, that would be perfect. Killing them would serve my path just as well. Mother, maybe I should just leave. Arya wept, her body trembling slightly. I've been in someone else's place for over a decade. Now that the rightful owner is back, how can I possibly have the face to stay? Lady Seraphina, the master's wife, hugged her tightly, her own eyes red with heartache. Silly girl, don't say such things. No matter what happens, you will always be my daughter. Master Caden stood to the side, his brow furrowed. Rhys, the eldest disciple, immediately stepped forward, his tone indignant. Master, how can we trust a letter of unknown origin? Master Caden cut him off with a deep voice. The letter mentioned the infant swap by the Bloodfiend cult. I've had it investigated and it's true. He looked at Arya with a complicated expression. Arya is indeed not of my blood. As for the person at the gate, all it will take is one drop of blood on the kinship stone to verify her identity. Hearing this, Arya cried so hard she nearly fainted. Rhys was heartbroken. Arya, Don't be afraid. You'll always be my only little sister. In the midst of the chaos, I walked straight into the main hall and, under the astonished gazes of everyone present, leisurely took a seat on the master's throne. The hall fell into a dead silence. Who are you? Reese shouted. I looked up. Leah. So you're. I extended my wrist without fuss. Go ahead and test it. Master Caden's expression was grave as he brought out an ancient stone plate. The moment a drop of my blood fell from my fingertip, the stone plate glowed. You really are our daughter, Master Caden murmured to himself, staring at the phenomenon. At his side, Aria's face went white. She shrank into Lady Seraphina's arms like a frightened rabbit, trembling. Lady Seraphina immediately clutched her tighter, her face full of pity. Just then, a servant brought tea and refreshments. I picked up a cup and took a light sip, ignoring everyone. How dare you? Reese pointed at me accusingly. Even if you grew up in the mortal world, don't you know basic manners? As a junior, how can you sit on the master's throne? I paused at his words. A junior? It's been a long time since I've heard that. In the world of cultivation, strength is what earns respect. I was already a near deity. Wherever I went, thousands of cultivators bowed, calling me senior. Arya immediately came to my rescue with a tearful voice. Senior brother, don't blame my sister, she must have suffered so much in the mortal world. No one taught her these rules. She didn't mean it. I set down my cup. Rules are for guests. Why would I need to follow rules in my own home? My gaze swept over her and Reese. You two, on the other hand, seem to know how a guest should behave. You. Arya's face turned a comical shade of green. Master Caden sighed, trying to ease the tension. Leah, you've suffered in the past. Your father will make it up to you. Tell me, is there anything you want? I looked up and cut straight to the point. There's no need. I came back today only to repay the gift of life. You can ask one wish of me. Whatever it is, I will grant it. They were all stunned, exchanging glances. My dear child, there's no rush to repay us, Master Caden said dismissively, waving his hand. Just settle in for now, get to know the sect, and we can talk about it later. I understood. They didn't believe a mortal, like me, could do anything for them. Fine. The exact catalyst for repaying the gift of life wasn't clear yet anyway. I would stay and see what happened. Just then, a disciple stumbled into the hall, his voice filled with terror. Master, it's terrible. The third senior brother, he was killed outside the main gate. The entire hall was in shock. Arya trembled, the color draining from her face. She shot a look at me. I gave her a cold smile in return. It seemed that idiot at the gate who had shown me killing intent was connected to my dear sister. The master and his wife rushed off to investigate the third brother's death, assigning Reese to take me to my new quarters. We walked in silence until we reached a secluded area in the back mountains. He suddenly turned, his eyes like ice. You waste of space. Don't think you can just climb the social ladder because your identity was confirmed, he sneered. Arya is the moon in the sky, and you're just mud in the gutter. You're not even worthy of tying her shoes. I stopped and looked at him. Is your mind as narrow as your worldview? His face darkened. Such a sharp tongue. You really have no manners growing up in the mortal world. Manners? I laughed softly. Those are for people. Do I need them for you? He flew into a rage, and his killing intent flared. If I kill you, Arya will have no more worries. What right do you have to make her cry? He pointed 2 fingers like a sword, and a sharp burst of energy shot toward my forehead. He was a high-level cultivator, and that single blow was enough to annihilate the soul of a mortal. However, I simply tilted my head, and the energy grazed past my ear. You dodged it. His pupils shrank. I looked at him, my eyes growing cold. I gave you a chance. An invisible force suddenly seized his throat and slammed him into a deep pool nearby. Before he could struggle, I raised my hand and pressed down, and an even more terrifying force pushed his head deep into the water. Gurgle you. I walked slowly to the edge of the pool and looked down on him from above. First offense, insolence. He had just struggled to lift his head when another force slammed it back underwater, making him choke on water and tears. Second offense, unprovoked aggression. I pushed him down again. He kicked wildly underwater as bubbles erupted to the surface. Third offense, intent to kill. This time, he stayed underwater for much longer, and his struggles visibly weakened. When he was finally lifted up again, his face was filled with terror. Spare me, junior sister Leah, I was wrong. He was a blubbering mess, all his earlier arrogance gone. I leaned down, my voice as soft as a ghost's. You're begging for mercy now? A glimmer of hope appeared in his eyes, and he nodded desperately. Too bad, I said, straightening up, my eyes devoid of emotion. I never give people who want to kill me a second chance. One last time, an invisible force dragged him to the bottom of the pool, and he was never heard from again. With the third and first senior brothers dead one after another, the sect was in a state of panic. But no one suspected me, the powerless mortal. It wasn't until the second senior brother, Simon, appeared that I began to wonder. What kind of dark path was Arya practicing that made so many people throw their lives away for her? But Simon was far smarter than his two brothers. He was cunning like a fox, and his words were flawless. He wasn't here to cause trouble, but to inform me. The sect master was holding a recognition ceremony to formally introduce me to everyone. They had ignored me before, but now they were suddenly paying attention? Something was definitely off. Sure enough, at the ceremony, Master Caden said lovingly, Leah, let the elders see your potential. A spirit stone was brought out, and whispers immediately filled the hall. She wasted 18 years in the mortal world. She's completely useless. What kind of potential could she have? Even though Sister Arya has a mixed spiritual core, she's already at the foundation establishment stage. This one, she probably can't even sense spiritual energy. Who cares if she has the right blood? In the world of cultivation, a failure is a failure. Arya stood to the side, her eyes glistening with tears. Everyone, please don't say that about my sister, she's suffered a lot. Her power level doesn't matter. It's good enough that she's home. With just a few words, she painted me as the villain who was bullying her, making everyone feel even more sorry for her. I placed my hand on the spirit stone. The stone flickered with a faint light, displaying the words novice level energy. The hall erupted in open mockery. Novice level. Even our sect's janitors have more power than that. What a waste. A complete waste of the master's bloodline. A flash of triumph crossed Arya's eyes, and Master Caden's face fell. Just as everyone thought the farce was over. Boom! The spirit stone suddenly burst with a brilliant golden light. A draconic phantom wrapped in chaotic energy shot into the sky, and a dragon's roar shook the heavens. A chaotic dragon core? Master Caden shot to his feet, his voice distorted with shock. An elder in the crowd who knew his history screamed. The ancient texts say the last person to possess this core ascended to godhood and achieved immortality. After the initial euphoria, Master Caden stared at me, his heart aching with regret. Such heaven-sent talent, truly my daughter, but what a pity you have no power. You've missed the optimal time for foundation building and are now beyond help. He beat his chest in frustration. If you had grown up in the sect with our resources, your power would probably surpass my own stage of spiritual ascension by now. I looked down, my heart calm. After his stage, there was still void refinement, body integration, grand ascension, and tribulation crossing. I had already passed my tribulation, and was one step from godhood. By hiding my power, I naturally appeared as a powerless mortal in their eyes. Seeing all the envy and awe directed at me, Arya dug her nails into her palms, jealousy burning her like a poison fire. She burst into tears. It's all my fault. I took my sister's resources. I'm the useless one. Simon wrapped an arm around her, looking at me with the eyes of a venomous snake. I glanced coldly across the hall, at the fake sympathy, the naked greed, and the barely suppressed jealousy. The myriad faces of humanity, how utterly boring. A few days later, the master and his wife came to see me. Leah, Lady Seraphina began, looking troubled and hesitant. You said before that you wanted to repay us by granting us one wish. Just then, Arya and Simon happened to arrive. Father, mother. Arya dropped to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Please don't worry about me anymore. My sister has finally come home. How can I take her things? She cried so hard she looked like she was about to faint. Simon immediately stepped forward, his tone earnest. Master, my lady, please think of the bigger picture. Arya's spiritual core is flawed, and her path to power is blocked. She cries all day. If this continues, it will damage her very foundation. His tone shifted as he turned to me, his voice laced with temptation. But if junior sister Leah is willing to offer her ultimate spiritual core, things will be different. For you who cannot cultivate, it's useless anyway. The sect is willing to compensate you with countless treasures, and can even find you a new spiritual core. We will ensure you live a life of wealth and comfort. I sneered inwardly. They thought I didn't know. Forcefully removing a spiritual core from a mortal was no different from torturing them to death. For Arya's sake, they were willing to sacrifice their own daughter's life. A flicker of struggle and pity crossed Master Caden's and Lady Seraphina's faces. But that hesitation quickly vanished in the face of Arya's desperate sobs and Simon's persuasion. Just as they were about to make their decision, I spoke calmly, offering one last warning. I promise to repay the gift of life, and I will honor that promise. But a wish born of malice will plant a seed of slaughter. The one who makes the wish must bear the consequences. The four of them reacted differently to my words. Master Caden frowned, Lady Seraphina looked terrified, and Simon's expression was uncertain. Only Arya had an irrepressible flash of ecstasy in her eyes. I took a black wooden box out of my storage ring. The master and his wife felt a strange jolt in their hearts. I looked up. Before you decide, I want to return this to you. Inside the box was a smooth birthing jade, with a single streak of red blood sealed within. This jade has been with me since birth, a witness to the beginning of my life, I said calmly. This bloodstain is a fusion of my mother's essence and my own umbilical blood. Is this your birthing jade? Lady Seraphina's eyes trembled, and tears instantly filled them. I thought I lost it when we were fleeing. She reached out a trembling hand, wanting to touch it. Even Master Caden's face showed a hint of emotion. I quietly activated my spirit vision, and saw their awakened memories. A thatched hut in a torrential downpour, where Lady Seraphina had endured 3 days and nights of difficult labor to give birth to me. Her face was pale, but her eyes were full of love as she gently kissed my forehead. Master Caden awkwardly held his newborn daughter, smiling like a child. They wrapped me in the only cloth they had, vowing to protect me for the rest of their lives. Arya suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood, her face turning ashen as she collapsed. Arya. All thoughts were shattered as Lady Seraphina and Master Caden rushed to her side. Father, mother, don't worry about me. Arya's voice was faint, tears rolling down her cheeks. My sister is back. It's enough for your family to be reunited. Just let me die. Simon stepped forward at the right moment, revealing the grim truth. Master, my lady. Arya pushed herself too hard to break through to the next level and had a chi deviation, injuring her foundation. Only a transplant of a stronger spiritual core can save her life. She was trying so hard because she didn't want the sect to be shamed, and she didn't want you to be criticized for having no heir. Lady Seraphina hugged Arya tightly, and Master Caden's eyes reddened. Simon pressed his advantage, listing all of Arya's past acts of filial piety. Arya may not be your biological daughter, but she was the one who stayed by your bedside for 7 days straight when you were ill. She was the one who stood guard outside your meditation cave without leaving for a moment. Does her decade of companionship and devotion mean less than some intangible blood connection? He gave me a meaningful look. Some people have the bloodline but are complete strangers. But Arya is the one who has truly given her all, who loves you with all her heart. She has nothing left. Must she be deprived of even the right to live? Master Caden and Lady Seraphina looked at each other, and their last shred of hesitation was completely erased by Arya's pained moans. They hugged her tightly, having made their final choice. I stood to the side, watching coldly. I had given them one last chance. They were the ones who had severed this blood tie with their own hands. At the same time, I could clearly sense the faint glow of the soul-devouring formation they had set up beneath my feet. The trap was about to be fully activated, ready to consume my spiritual core. Leah, Master Caden began slowly, his voice laced with false pity. If not for the incident back then, with your talent, you would have brought glory to the sect. But fate is cruel. Arya has been by our side all these years. She has been so devoted to us. Surely you wouldn't want to see her die. Lady Seraphina immediately added, her voice gentle but every word a knife. Good child, don't be afraid. We're just giving the spiritual core to your sister. It won't harm you. Your father and I will repay you 1,000 times over and treat you like a precious jewel. I watched their masterful performance, finding it utterly ironic. Since the situation is so urgent, I said, raising an eyebrow and looking them over, why don't you two just dig out your own spiritual cores for her? A spirit transformation stage core is surely more useful than one from a mortal like me, isn't it? The two of them were instantly speechless, their faces ugly. Nonsense, Master Caden said, flying into a rage. We are the pillars of this sect. How can we damage our own cultivation? You're a mere mortal. Possessing such a treasure is a danger to you. We are doing this for your own good. Sister, don't blame father and mother. Arya started crying at just the right moment. Simon immediately rebuked me harshly. Leah, they are your birth parents. How can you be so disrespectful and speak such vile words? They had finally lost their patience and revealed their true colors. Enough, Master Caden shouted. Since you promised to grant us one wish, make a heavenly pact now. You cannot go back on your word. Fine, I agreed readily. A golden contract appeared in the air. Our wishes, their eyes gleamed with greed. To have Leah's chaotic dragon core. The contract glowed brightly, signifying that the heavens had witnessed the vow, and it was sealed. It's done. Their faces were alight with uncontrollable joy, as if they could already see the future glory of the sect. But then I started to laugh, a cold, mocking sound. Your killing intent, I've received it. The next moment, the soul-devouring formation they had carefully laid beneath their feet suddenly reversed. A tidal wave of sword energy erupted from my body, instantly shattering their spiritual foundations. Arg! Before their horrified eyes. I raised my hand and made a grasping motion. I ripped 2 bloody spiritual cores from their bodies and threw them on the ground in front of them. I looked down at the 2 of them, collapsed on the floor, their powers completely gone. I came here to repay the gift of life. You gave me life, which was a seed of creation. But today you planted a seed of malice, a seed of slaughter. Since you truly wanted my life, from this day forward, our karmic debt is cleared. Master Caden and Lady Seraphina lay in pools of their own blood, their spiritual cores ripped out, their cultivation scattered. Their faces were ashen as they coughed up blood. You witch! What kind of dark magic did you use? Master Caden roared, his eyes wide with fury. I looked down at him, my voice devoid of emotion. I warned you. Malice creates a seed of slaughter. Since you wanted to kill me, you should have been prepared for the backlash. My gaze shifted to the trembling Arya, and I smiled faintly. Sister, you were in such desperate need of a spiritual core, weren't you? There are some on the ground. Pick one. You're not my daughter. My daughter would never be so cruel. Lady Seraphina shrieked. So your real daughter is supposed to obediently offer up her spiritual core and let you slaughter her? I said mockingly. That's a new kind of logic I've never heard before. Just then, a fierce gust of wind attacked me from behind. Simon's 9-section whip struck like a venomous snake, carrying a destructive force that instantly leveled the entire hall. Without even turning my head, I reached back, caught the tip of the whip, and with a slight tug, reversed its direction, sending it flying back at an even more terrifying speed. The whip's shadow flashed, and Simon's doppelganger was instantly obliterated. His real body was also severely wounded. He staggered and fell, spitting up blood. Arya screamed and scrambled backward, only to be bound tightly by the immortal binding rope I threw. Leah, you've sided with demons. You're consumed by jealousy. You're pathetic. Simon shouted, trying to provoke me while propping himself up. Do you think you can win everything with dark magic? Arya is pure-hearted. You're not even fit to touch a hair on her head. While he shouted, He was secretly forming hand seals, creating a hidden communication array. He was summoning the rest of the sect. I had already noticed but didn't stop him. Ever since I had set foot in this sect, malice had followed me like a shadow. I was the one who had everything stolen from me. So why did they all hate me to the bone and wish for me to disappear? If that was the case, then all this surging malice would serve as perfect fuel for my path to godhood. Seeing that I didn't react, a hint of pride flashed in Simon's eyes. Thinking I was no match for him, he opened his mouth to provoke me again. I was already tired of it and cut him off. Since you're so deeply devoted. A flash of my sword, and Simon's spiritual core was in my hand. I tossed it at Arya's feet. I'll give her another option. Simon stared at his own bloody spiritual core on the ground and completely broke down. Bitch. Demon. His face twisted into a mask of rage as he roared. All traces of his former feigned elegance gone. I laughed. The rage of the powerless. At my words, a savage, insane smile spread across his face. Demon. You think you've won? You're about to die. Before he could finish, the sky suddenly changed color. A massive golden pillar of light descended from the heavens, transforming into a demon-sealing pagoda covered in countless arcane runes, trapping me inside. At the same time, dozens of elders leading hundreds of disciples swarmed in, forming a kill array and surrounding me. The demon-slaying formation is complete. Surrender now, demon! An elder with a white beard and hair shouted. Simon laughed wildly, as if he had grasped his last lifeline. This is the demon-sealing pagoda, passed down from ancient times. It's designed to suppress all evil spirits and demons. No matter how powerful you are nothing but an ant before its might. He shouted to the crowd. Everyone look closely. She's a mere mortal, yet she can overpower us. What could she be if not a demon worshipper? She must be a demon sent by the bloodfiend cult for revenge. The crowd was incensed, and a tide of curses washed over me. I knew she was wicked from the start. What good can come from someone who crawled out of such a filthy place? Ungrateful wolf. To do this to her own parents. She's worse than an animal. She may have the master's blood, but she was born evil. Even in her circumstances, our dear Arya would never have become so vicious. Lady Seraphina cried out. I should never have given birth to you. You monster. I stood in the center, listening to these absurd accusations, finding them laughable. A bunch of fools. Still talking tough when you're about to die. Activate the pagoda and destroy her, body and soul. Master Caden roared venomously. The pagoda blazed with light, and a destructive force pressed down. Everyone stared, wide-eyed, waiting to see me crushed to dust. A triumphant smile appeared on Arya's face. However, the next second, boom! An immense pressure, as vast as a sea of stars, erupted from my center. It was like a physical hammer slamming into everyone's soul. Whether they were elders or disciples, in the face of this absolute power, they couldn't even form a thought of resistance. Their legs gave out, and they all collapsed to their knees, trembling. This is tribulation crossing? No, a half-step true immortal. One elder stammered in terror. They looked up in horror, unable to understand why such a legendary being had appeared. Could it be, to suppress this overwhelming demonic energy? Before their terrified eyes, their sect's greatest treasure, the demon-sealing pagoda, shrank like a tame pet and landed in my hand. I floated in the air, surrounded by an immortal aura, my hair flowing without wind. I looked down at the crowd of ants kneeling at my feet. My voice was calm, yet it echoed in the soul of every person present. Now do you see? Who are the ants? In the dead silence, the oldest elder stared at a seemingly ordinary white jade hairpin in my hair. He gasped, his voice changing with extreme fear. That the jade pin of purification. You are Lady Leah, the immortal slayer? He fell prostrate, almost screaming the name of the legend who shook the world of cultivation. The one who was the sole disciple of the great ancestor Nirvana, who walks the path of retribution, who single-handedly slayed 9 demon lords at the Three Realms Summit to save the world, and is known as the Azura of Slaughter, the Bodhisattva of Mercy, the immortal slayer? The entire sect was in an uproar. Ancestor Nirvana. The legendary master who was once only a step away from ascension, but sacrificed his own power to protect the world during the immortal demon war. His only disciple was the immortal Slayer. And the immortal Slayer, though a rogue cultivator, was famous for her path of retribution. She held the power of life and death, punishing only the wicked and never harming the innocent. She had eradicated more demon dens and evil cults than many major sects had in a century. Her name was built on the bones of countless demons and fiends. And the seemingly ordinary woman before them was her. Master Caden and Lady Seraphina were struck dumb, completely frozen. They had heard countless stories of the brilliant immortal Slayer, but they never dreamed that the legend herself was the daughter whose spiritual core they had plotted to steal. No, impossible. How could you be? Arya shrieked, her beautiful face twisted by extreme jealousy and shock. She lunged toward Lady Seraphina, trying her old trick again. Mother! Mother, believe me, she must be an imposter. Get away from me. Master Caden slapped her across the face, his eyes filled with rage. This is all your fault, you bitch. If you hadn't been poisoning our minds, we would never have ended up like this. Lady Seraphina then shoved her away, and she fell to the ground. She turned to me, crying and begging. Leah, I was wrong. I was blind. We are mother and daughter. Blood is thicker than water. I've always loved you in my heart. Just then, Simon gently helped Arya to her feet. A glimmer of hope ignited in Arya's eyes, but in the next instant, his whip mercilessly pierced her spiritual foundation. You. Arya looked down at the bloody hole in her abdomen, her eyes filled with shock and despair. Simon didn't even glance at her. He tossed her aside like trash and then knelt, crawling on his knees to my feet, his face plastered with a fawning smile. Immortal One, I was deceived by this witch. Seeing you today, I finally understand the difference between heaven and earth. I am willing to be your servant, your slave. I looked at this utterly absurd scene and finally let out a soft laugh. My gaze swept over Master Caden and Lady Seraphina. If I were still the powerless mortal Leah today, you would have already cut me open, stolen my spiritual core, and left me for dead, wouldn't you? As for your love for her, I glanced at the dying Arya. You just couldn't bear to lose the resources you'd invested in her for over a decade. When I was useless, you treated me coldly and hoped I would just disappear. When you discovered I had value, you didn't hesitate to sacrifice me for the sect's glorious future. Your so-called gift of life, your so-called love, it's all worthless in the face of self-interest. Today, with my path of retribution, I will settle the bitter fruit you planted with your own hands. I hovered in the air, immortal energy gathering at my fingertips. A destructive aura swept through the sect like a tidal wave, making the entire mountain tremble. Immortal One, spare us. We have no quarrel with you. One of the elders, weeping, dragged the dying Arya forward like a piece of trash and offered her up. It's all her fault. She was the one who poisoned everyone's minds and sowed discord. We will hand her over to you to be tortured to death, if you'll just spare our lives. Arya collapsed on the ground, her face drained of color. She looked at the people who had once doted on her, her eyes filled with terror and disbelief. No, you all said, even if my sister came back, I would still be your most beloved daughter. Father, mother, senior brother, if the first and third brothers were still here, they would never. It seems, I interrupted her calmly, it really was you who sent them to kill me. Arya's head snapped up, her pupils shrinking. It was you. You killed them. A cold smile touched my lips. They are your future. Despair and hatred completely consumed her. She pointed at me, screaming hysterically, Leah, you bitch, you demon, you'll die a horrible death. Watching her crazed state, I suddenly found it quite interesting. You wanted my spiritual core so badly, didn't you? I'll give you a chance. My gaze swept over the silent crowd below as I spoke slowly. You may choose the spiritual core of any person here. As long as someone is willing to cut out their core, offer it to you, and then take their own life, I will spare everyone else. In an instant, the faces of the crowd changed dramatically. Arya, as if grabbing at a last straw, frantically crawled toward the people who had once loved her most. Father, mother, second brother, Elder Zhao, save me. Didn't you all love me the most? Please. But wherever she crawled, the crowd recoiled as if from a venomous snake. Get away. You jinx. This is all your fault. If you're going to die, die alone. Don't drag us down with you. I don't know who started it, but the pushing and shoving quickly turned into a brawl. Elderly, you stole resources from the secret realm last year. Don't think no one knows. A parasite like you should be the one to sacrifice for the sect. Bullshit. Steward Wang, you skimmed disciples' elixirs for your own profit. What right do you have to talk? It was you. You were the one who suggested we take the Immortal One's spiritual core. You started it. Curses, accusations, blame shifting. The once dignified cultivators were now fighting for their lives, brawling, throwing magical artifacts, and unleashing chaotic energy. The scene was a chaotic and ugly mess. I stood in the air, looking down dispassionately at the farce I had ignited, a drama driven by the deepest malice in their own hearts. In the chaos, someone roared, Master Caden, Lady Seraphina, this is all because you indulged your adopted daughter and mistreated your real one. You should be the ones to pay the price. Everyone's eyes immediately focused on the disgraced couple. Their spiritual cores were gone, their cultivation destroyed. They could only cover their heads and run as the crowd surrounded them, stripped of all dignity. You raised her for over a decade. Isn't it only right that you sacrifice for her? Someone demanded. Even Arya, as if grabbing her last hope, cried out, Father, Mother, please just dote on me one last time. Despair and resentment consumed everyone, and they actually began to attack their former master and his wife. Master Caden and Lady Seraphina were bloodied and beaten in the assault. Finally, they used the last of their strength to activate a spatial artifact and vanished. They must have hidden in the forbidden area in the back mountains. Simon shouted, a vicious glint in his eye. Use fire. Force them out or burn them alive. The crowd, already lost to bloodlust, immediately began casting spells. A sea of flames engulfed the back mountains. However, through my spirit vision, I saw the two of them cornered in the forbidden zone. If you won't let us live, then we'll all die together. Master Caden's face was twisted in madness as he activated the sect master's seal, the final trigger that would detonate all the defensive formations in the back mountains. Boom. The earth shook violently. An explosion far more powerful than the flames erupted from beneath the ground. Fire lit up the sky, and endless screams echoed. All the greed, betrayal, killing intent, and hypocrisy, along with their fragile lives, were finally reduced to scorched earth and ashes in the explosion they themselves had caused. I walked through the still burning ruins. Beneath a blackened boulder, I saw the birthing jade. It had shattered into pieces. The red streak that symbolized our blood connection had faded and disappeared. The jade was broken, the debt of life was paid. I looked up and saw the clouds parting. A pure, majestic beam of golden light pierced through the sky and fell precisely upon me. I knew. The karma was settled, the mortal ties were severed. My path of retribution, at this moment, was complete. The golden light guided me, and the gates of the heavens opened. A long-buried memory, filled with the scent of sunshine and soil, flooded my mind. That day, my master was in his precious vegetable patch with his pants rolled up, looking nothing like a peerless expert. He suddenly straightened up and tossed me a freshly pulled radish, still covered in dirt. Kid, don't be so grim all the time. Look at this seed. Only when you plant it in the darkest, dirtiest soil can it grow into the most vibrant vegetable. He took a bite of the radish, the crunch echoing as he smiled at me. This mortal world is just like this vegetable patch. Good and evil are the fertilizer, karma is the harvest. The path you walk is not one of slaughter, but of balance. Go on, go tend your garden well. When you finally feel that the mud beneath your feet is not a restraint but the force lifting you up, you will have succeeded. At the time, I thought it was just one of my master's jokes. But now, standing before the gates of heaven, and looking back on my journey, the mud I had been mired in, the darkness that had tried to consume me, was now all beneath my feet, shining brightly, lifting me toward the master. Look, this garden, I've grown it well.